What are you going to do with your life? What are you going to study in university? What do you want to do in the future? These questions plagued me until very recently. Far too recently, I'd say. I discovered the answer to these in 12th grade. Yeah, I know. In an ideal world, you'd want to know what you want to study before 12th grade because then you can start checking the universities that specialize in it. But for me, it was simply that time caught up to me. I hadn't realized that high school graduation was slowly but surely creeping up on me. And by the time I did, I was already late and was still confused. But thankfully, I wasn't too late. By the time I realized that time had caught up to me, I could almost feel the diploma slapping me in the face. I was freaking out. So here is how I discovered what I wanted to study. So the first step is to identify your problem and your passions. My problem was that I had two passions and I didn't know which one to pick. It was like these two sides of me. Fitness and art were at a constant tug of war. I love art. Getting to be creative has always been one of my favorite activities. Plus, art is supremely important in provoking societal change, whether it be through impacting a single person with your art, whether it be making them happier, or through grand movements like street art fighting for a noble cause. I also love fitness. Something about improving yourself and bettering your fitness makes me feel empowered. Without empowered, confident, healthy people, society just would not function. My problem was I was uncertain because my experience in both of these fields was very limited. I'd argue that most people's problem when going to pick a major is that they have not exposed themselves to sufficient experiences in the areas that they're interested in. Or they don't even know which areas they're interested in because they haven't exposed themselves to anything. First, you have to identify why you're unsure so that then you can address the problem. The things that ultimately helped me decide between both of them were these 6 things. So I did volunteer work for a period of time in both of the areas I was interested in. For a short period of time, I worked as an art teacher for middle schoolers and high schoolers. And for a short period of time, I also designed a PE curriculum of sorts. Both times it was volunteer work for my school, but even if your school doesn't have any possible volunteer work experiences, you could still find other spaces to work on these things. Another thing that helped me was participating in a pre-college program that emulated college life as closely as it could. It definitely was a big factor in my decision. Also, you have to get real deep and contemplate your desires and what you think is your purpose in life. What do you think is the value that you can provide people? But don't base it solely off what you think would be helpful for people, because if you choose a major simply because you think it'll help other people but you're not interested in it at all, then you're not going to be able to contribute as much to society as if you had picked a job that you were at least somewhat passionate about. Technically, a major does not have to end with you taking something based in that area as your job, but that is kind of the main point of college. So you want to analyze where you want to end up and not just go into a field because you find the studies interesting, but mostly go into it because you find the end result interesting. Because in the long run, your studying is only going to be, if you only do a bachelor's, it's only going to be 4 years of your life, whereas your job will carry you through the majority of your life. At least I found that my purpose in life was to try and brighten people's lives as much as I can and help them improve upon themselves and inspire them to reach their own goals. If you don't know what your purpose in life is, the way I was very easily able to identify what mine was I looked at all the things I had done that had made me proudest of myself. Like the pieces of work that I had made that I was most proud of, the things people had told me that had made me the most proud of myself, or also the things that you want to improve upon in society and in yourself. For me, one of my proudest moments was when my PE teacher went up to me and she told me that I inspired her because I had gotten my butt in gear and gotten into like fitness. So on the same note of looking to the future and trying to see what job you visualize yourself in, a good way to start eliminating and narrowing down careers is by, first of all, analyze. Are you good at handling people, or do you want to work with people? Or do you prefer working in a setting where you're on your own? Do you prefer having a boss or managing yourself? In my case, even though I love spending time on my own, I realized that I wanted to have a job where I interacted with people on a daily basis, because I felt like maybe if I didn't interact with people on a daily basis, since that's something that makes me happy, I would be unhappier with my job. Also consider, do you want a job that is sedentary or active? In my case, I felt that if I pursued art, I might fall into a more sedentary lifestyle, since what I had been interested in was freelance art, and that would just be me at my house or apartment going for hours and painting and selling my work online and in real life at markets and all that stuff, which is fun, but I feel like my health, both mentally and physically, would deteriorate a little bit. But I also asked myself, once I have a job, how mobile do I want the job to be? Do I want to be able to move anywhere and still be able to do my job? In that case, art won, because I could just sell stuff online no matter where in the world I was. Whereas with fitness related things, if I build up my own gym and I want to move, it's not as mobile, because I would have to close down the gym I already have and then go through all the paperwork and stuff that building a gym in another country would require. Also take into account whether you are okay with a fluctuating salary. So basically, just try and visualize yourself as a whole living the life you'd live if you had the jobs that you're considering. You also don't have to pick just one job. In my case, I wanted to have something that was my main source of income, but you do have to pick just one major for now. Also, take into account what income you want to have. Many people say not to pay much attention to income when you are deciding your job. And I feel like that is partially true, partially not. I feel like you sort of still do have to take income into account when you're picking a job or major, because ultimately, depending on the type of person you are, money does have an effect on your happiness. If you are below poverty level, you most likely will not be able to be happy, because all your energy is going towards the fact that you are poor and you can't afford food or paying rent and utilities. Also, keep in mind how much student debt you'll rack up from your studies. It really depends on the person when it comes to how much you care about how much money you make. So in the end, after you've thought about all these things, just pick what feels right, what your intuition is telling you. It doesn't simply have to be a tug of war. You can integrate your passions to create a job that is perhaps a bit more unusual, but still satisfies what you would want in a job. Also, don't think that any job or any field of study will be perfect for you. There will always be something that you do not like in whatever field of study you pick. Just pick the one that makes you the happiest, that you're most passionate about, that you think the jobs that major can get you will make you the most satisfied and content with your life once you are older. At whatever point in the process you are, I feel like a career counselor is incredibly helpful. My school does not have a career counselor or tiny school, so I just visited local public colleges, and her services were free and she helped me immensely. I don't know whether all colleges' career counselor services are free, but it was honestly one of the most informative hours of my life. I went to her once I had a rough idea of which of the two passions I was leaning towards, and she really helped steer me the right way. I had also already done brief research on careers in the area that I thought I was gonna pick, so it wasn't as extensive of a meeting, but I'm sure if you have a good career counselor, they will not mind looking at a bunch of careers with you and helping you narrow down your view if you have a really broad spectrum of things that you think you might be interested in, because that is their job. I feel like you could go to a career counselor at any point in this process and it will still be as helpful. There are also those quizzes on college websites that tell you careers that they suggest for you depending on your personality and what you value in a job. But sometimes I feel like once we've done the research, we know what we really want, but we run away from it. Don't ignore your gut feelings. Ignore what everyone's expectations of you are. If your family is trying to force you to be something you don't want to be, then it is your life, not theirs, and you get to make the final decision. Along with all this research you're doing, one day you might just get an epiphany and be like, oh, this is not the right thing for me. That's what happened to me with art. Art was not for me, at least not as a job. I will still maintain it as a hobby. So finally, what I realized was I want to be a physical therapist. This is something you have to keep in mind if you're going to go into a career that requires doctoral studies. Your doctoral program will have some requirements that you need to fulfill in your college curriculum. And so it's kind of a waste of time if you take some of your electives in your bachelor and you don't put them towards your requirements for the doctoral program, because then you will end up having to spend more money on credits. I'm going to go into pre-med because that was what most easily fit the requirements for the doctor of physical therapy program that I want to go to. Also, something good about having multiple sides to you is that no matter if anything goes wrong with your main source of income, you will always have other branches that you could fall back on. Like, I know I will always have art as a tool for me if something ever happens and my business is going badly. Just because you choose something over something else doesn't mean that other thing disappears from your life. I will still definitely be incorporating art in my life. So hopefully this video will make the world of choosing a career for yourself a little bit easier to understand, or just bring to light maybe things you hadn't thought of when picking your major. I know that these things definitely helped me. Just make sure you take time and you listen to each of the bullet points and you either make a list or just think about it. Also, it's okay to not have the answer all the time. It might take you a while to come up with what you really want, and that is all right. Thank you for watching this video. Hopefully it was helpful. No, hopefully it wasn't helpful. I hope you hated this video. Leave a dislike down below. Don't comment, and I won't see you guys soon. Bye. I feel the need to clarify that was a joke in case you couldn't tell.
Hi, I made a little infographic to summarize the key points of this video because I know I went over a lot of things and it might be a little bit confusing. If you want, you can screenshot this, print this if it's helpful for you. Do whatever you please with it.
Wait, do a final victory thing. Wait, what did you say?